everybody, and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Supergirl issue 11, written and drawn by Sophie Campbell, with colours by Tamara Bonvillain and letters by Becca Carey. Supergirl joins in on the reign of the Superboys, as in the wake of the Omega tournament, Superman has gone missing and Kara wants nothing to do but to drop everything to go and look for her cousin. However, she can't, since she still needs to help the bottled city of Kandor. Donning the yellow ring of Noor Khan, which allows her to retain her powers while inside the bottle, Kara ventures into the city. Down in Kandor, the city has been ravaged by a type of gooey plague that covers most of the buildings. Lesla-Lar watches on, knowing that Supergirl is on her way, and someone seen being really hopes they are, since she is eager to meet Kara after everything Lesla has told her. So I fell off the Supergirl book for a couple of issues there since I was reading just too much at the time, but I really like it's been very consistent with Sophie writing and doing the art for it, and its core cast being Kara, Lesla, Lena Luthor is in there, Connor Kent is also in there, so there's like a cast that's been moving on from issue to issue, and we're on issue 11 already, and it's still that same cast, which I really like. It's a consistency, means the stories are continuing to move on and just build on each other, which I really like. It also makes jumping back into the book feel like I'm not lost, and from the dialogue throughout this entire section of the book, you can kind of glean what is just going on. Supergirl arrives in Kandor, finding the gooey plague covering the city, which reminds her of when Argo City was hit by a meteor shower years prior. I'm a sucker for gross aliens, and I love the stuff Sophie does here with this goo stuff, which starts creating like tentacles and faces with giant maws, then arms reaching out to grab Kara and pull her out of the sky. It's some really great looking designs, and they're just like real simple fleshy masses. Supergirl blasts through the attacking goo monsters and finds some people being terrorized by a spiky blue being. As she arrives to help the people, she demands to know what the alien is doing, learning that it is following orders from the Black Flame. Being attacks Kara, who just wants to talk, but the alien is not interested in doing anything of the such, calling for Rust, which is what the goo covering the city and that attacked Kara earlier is called. The goo latches back onto Kara and tries to subdue her, but Kara fights back. But upon getting up close and personal with the villains, Kara thinks the same way their bodies move and they're able to transform makes her think that Leslar's super substance is in play. Rust and the blue monster take off, vowing that the Black Flame will destroy Supergirl. After the chaos dies down, Kara tends to the people the monster was attacking, learning from their leader, who's named Ryla, that they've just been looking for food out in the city. Kara finally gets a lay of the land here, learning the blue monster is called Cut, and both her and Rust are part of Lesla-Lar's super substance science scouts, and the Black Flame is the one in charge of them all. And ever since Rust took over the city with its goo, the Science Council went into hiding and didn't tell the people anything. Man, what is it with Kryptonian science councils and just being filled with the most cowardly, close-minded people ever? All they ever seem to do is just turn their nose up at warnings like they did on Krypton, and just, back away when shit gets real. They run like cowards. We saw it recently in Mark Waid's Action Comics run when they actually exiled Superman for wanting to actually help the criminals in the Phantom Zone, and they didn't want any part of it. They didn't want anything disrupting their perfect, quote-unquote, little society they had in that bottle. Also, this is kind of like a big exposition dump, but I quite like it. It's quite concise. We know who is who's the villain, who's the good guy. We kind of can just jump right on into the story. Kara agrees to help the survivors look for some food and water, but first she wants to figure out where Lesla is, thinking about the genetic anomaly the Science Council told her about during her last visit, and how a mutation causes younger generations of Kandorians to shrink and die if they ever leave the bottle. Kara believes that this is part of all of it, and Lesla is retaliating against them and is obsessed with the Black Flame, just like how she was obsessed with Kara. Supergirl heads to the Science Council building and finds it really is just been turned into a giant bunker for the Council, who sealed themselves off inside from everything else. Her exploration is put on hold as she hears Lesla calling out to her through their telepathic link, telling her that she needs her help at the Tower of Zon. Kara speeds towards the tower near the center of the city, desperately wanting to see the best in Lesla. even after everything she's been through and heard. It's still pretty hard to do though. It's great to see Kara still trying to reach out and help Lesla, even after everything she's done in, the Midvale arc and how Kara tried to help her and everything. And she understands Lesla has lost a lot in the world and is kind of like a lost soul in the world. She doesn't really know who she is and what she wants to be. Kara did try to help her, and it had some middling results. Kara soon meets with the Kandorian, who hugs the hero, telling her that she missed her greatly. Kara tries to determine what is going on with Lesla, only to say that she had to do it. Someone made her do it. Kara probes for more information, asking if this has something to do with the genetic anomaly, and Lesla reveals that it is, but she isn't alone in this. She's with the Black Flame. We finally get to see the Black Flame, and like all of Sophie Campbell's work on this book, it's another hot woman who is also revealed to be Lesla's cousin, Zora Vylar. Kara immediately knows this woman is trouble, being that she's just kind of being real bitchy to Kara for no real reason, citing how she is disappointed by Supergirl, thinking that she'd be more than this, despite Lesla never ever shutting up about her. Zora reveals that her and Lesla are equal partners in all of this, but really this is all the Science Council and Kara's fault, since Lesla obsessed with Kara for a long time and idolized her, and while Kara built her up, she also tore her right back down, and they figured if they made enough noise, Kara would eventually come down into Kandor, and they weren't disappointed by her doing that. I'm liking what Sophie is doing with this character being Lesla's cousin. It's kind of an inverse of Kara and Clark, with Zora being the older cousin, just kind of stepping all over the younger Lesla, something that, in a different world somewhere else could have happened to Kara when she arrived on Earth. Cal could have, completely subjugated her and just made her his second in command and just stepped all over her and everything, but that didn't happen. Kara actually got off pretty well with Clark and how he was Superman and everything, but I like the inverse that's going on here, that there's that voice in Lesla's ear that's just kind of manipulating her, and that's definitely something that could have happened to Kara had she not been lucky. Kara doesn't like that Zora talks down to Lesla and for her, grabbing Lesla's hand, but Lesla apologizes, taking the yellow ring from Kara's finger and depowering her. Zora wastes no time and socks Kara right in the face, wanting Lesla to watch what she's about to do and that she doesn't need Kara or anyone else's help, just her own. Zora attacks and Kara defends herself, telling Zora that it's dumb not wanting to aspire to be better, and it's never pointless to try and become something better in life. Zora twists Kara's words, making it sound like Kara thinks that she is better than everyone. She tells Lesla that she needs to look up to herself and she never needed Supergirl. So Zora is kind of the worst type of antagonist, since she is getting under the skin of Kara with just, these little catty comments and just jabs at her person and being, frustrating the hero and playing on her own insecurities, which will no doubt cause her to react in anger, which is what Zora wants her to show that anger to Lesla to prove that she is right. I love getting to see these types of villains, since they are always lots of fun to watch interact with the hero and how they get in under the hero's skin and how the hero reacts to them. Zora continues with her jabs and Kara takes the bait, tackling Zora down and telling her that she knows they can't leave Kandor thanks to the genetic anomaly. So Zora is just going to destroy it all instead, since if she can't have it, no one can. Zora turns the tables on Kara again, telling Kara this is about the Science Council not wanting anyone to leave, since they want to preserve Kandorian culture and they don't care about the genetic anomaly. See, and this is the part where you empathize with the villain, since they just want to be free. They just want to be free from the Science Council. The Science Council won't allow that. They want the younger generation to finally succeed the older generation, but the older generation who's entrenched in probably every aspect of, the Science Council, the government and everything, don't want to relent any sort of power because they've got what's theirs and they don't care about anyone else. And it's something you see in real life too, in politics, in government, all over the world. You've got like 85-year-old senators and stuff like that falling over and, taking bad spills, and, they don't want to give up that power because that's all they have, and they won't let the younger generation step up. And I can see the frustration here that is building with Zora and probably Lesla as well, where they have the will to do all of this, but they're not being allowed to do that. So there is a frustration there, and maybe they think this is the only way they can be seen. Cool idea for a villain, and it's one we've seen before, but it's something I always always really like is a very realistic villain. Of course, Zora is going to be going about this completely wrong way. She's killing people, she doesn't really care about anyone else but herself, it seems. So of course there's going to be, those downsides that Supergirl is going to come up against, and I quite like that. But you can absolutely see where she's coming from with the Science Council. I mentioned before, they exiled Superman because he wanted to help prisoners. He wanted to give them a path to recovery, and they did not want to do that. So you can absolutely see why she would want to go against the Science Council. Kara manages to kick Zora in the face, telling her to make up her mind on if this is about the Council or about Lesla or her. Supergirl pins Zora down, trying to get her to stop, but Zora pulls a knife from her boot, deciding that she doesn't need to make up her mind about anything. Zora stabs Kara in the leg and then in the gut, but Kara doesn't give up, socking Zora in the jaw hard. But the villain loves it all, finding Kara isn't used to not having her powers, so she looks exhausted from the fight. Zora stabs Kara again, telling her that she wants to be allowed to hate all of the terrible and stupid stuff in life and not be told she can't. She wants the Council to run and hide, since they'll either starve to death or they will have the chance to kill them once they leave their bunker. See, everything Zora is saying makes sense. As I said before, it's the younger generations wanting to take over. The entrenched older generations don't want that, so the younger generation has to make noise, and this is the way Zora is deciding to do it. It's the wrong way to do that, but this is the way she's chosen, so you can kind of understand where she is coming from. With Kara down for the count, Zora drags her towards the platform's edge, telling Kara with Lesla-Lar's brains, they can figure out the cure to the genetic anomaly, and they can finally leave the boring Kandor city. Without missing a beat, Zora tosses Kara from the platform, leaving her to fall into the dark depths of Kandor. So this book at the cover mentions that it ties into the whole Reign of the Superboys Superman family-wide event, and until now it hasn't, which is not really a problem, since, as I said in my Action Comics issue 1096 review, it's kind of a loose event. They're just kind of aware of things that are happening with, Superman. They want to go find him and, stuff like that. But it's a very loose event. There isn't like a part 1, a part 2, a part 3 that you have to follow across all of these books. You can kind of dip in and out, and this is exactly what's happening here. And I really like that Sophie Campbell is letting her own story take over. She's not letting someone come in and say, right, you have to write a Reign of the Superboys event story. It has to tie in all these different points. She's getting to do all her own story that she already had, and then we get to join in with the Reign of the Superboys here at the end, because as Kara falls into the unknown, Boy Thunder watches on as Superboy and Lena try and contact Kara from Earth, finding something has happened to her. Boy Thunder reappearing is an interesting idea, since if you aren't aware who Boy Thunder is, he was like a one-time sort of partner to Superman back in World's Finest. Mark Waid created him, and it was revealed through Mark Waid's book there that he eventually becomes Magog, the villain from Kingdom Come. He's effectively disappeared from DCU history recently. We haven't really seen anything of him because of, that alternate world and everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing like how he factors into Kandor, how he got to Kandor. It's definitely a mystery. I do know from some solicitations and covers we've seen other Boy Thunder themed people, so maybe it's not even him. Maybe it's just a Kandorian who has a similar costume. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with him. I hope it is Boy Thunder, because I do think there was definitely some story left there for him, and some stuff that could be rounded out in his character. So I'm really looking forward to that, and how he'll and Supergirl will factor into Reign of the Superboys. Supergirl issue 11 jumped right back into its Kandor plot and put Supergirl up against a really interesting villain who, I gotta say, has some pretty good points about the younger generation taking over from the older entrenched generations. I like Sophie Campbell also getting to put her own story first. This is a Reign of the Superboys tie-in, but it's also not. I like that story did not dictate where she took her own story. She got to tell her own story and build in the Superboy stuff a little later on in the issue, which has me really intrigued. I'm really looking forward to the return of the Boy Thunder, as well as Superboy and Lena Luthor also getting a bit more playtime throughout this event. I'm intrigued to see how they all factor in, being that they're on Earth and she's on Kandor. So really cool things happening in this book so far, and I'm intrigued to see how they're going to tie into Reign of the Superboys. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.